This conference will now be recorded.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hurley,
Yes.
President Herrick.
Yes. Now we have a message from Scott Kerouac. Excuse me, again. There you go.
Yep. Good morning, Scott Kerouac, Hans County Commissioner, District 3. Just a couple things to report on this morning for you. Some of y'all may have seen our burn ban has been lifted in the county. We started to get some rain. We're starting to dry up a little bit more now. We've got a special board meeting this Friday to take care of a couple items that have to be cleaned up before the 1st of July. County Commission is going to, it looks like we're going to be extending the moratorium on impact fees at least for another year. We're talking to staff. They're wanting to get a new study done before we reconsider imposing impact fees, but we're still having more discussion on that. A study comes at the cost of about, roughly estimated about $200,000. So I have some concerns there as well as some other commissioners. So we'll continue to discuss and work on that moving forward. Also, one of the other items up for discussion is going to be an additional penny tax for the tourist development tax. That typically would not affect most all of us in this room. It affects hotel rentals and short-term rentals that are less than 6 months. Then they pay the hotel, the tourist development tax. So we're considering that because the county is eligible for that additional penny, which would generate about $400,000 a year in revenue to promote some more events coming into the county and what have you. And also part that can be used to on maintenance on existing facilities. Other than that, I spoke with President Herrick here just a few minutes ago, and one of my goals moving forward in our budget cycle, and I'm working on putting some figures together, is to request some more funding for paving Schumacher Road. If y'all recall, last year I was able to get $100,000 put aside for that project, and I hope to get some additional funding in this year's budget. I know this has been something back and forth, I have my figure. The county has a 50-50 cost share program for somebody that lives on a typical dirt road. If there's 6 or 8 houses living on a dirt road and you want to get it paved, you can come to the county. They'll work some cost estimates. If the neighbors come up with 50% or the people that live on that road, then the county comes up with the additional 50%. What we're talking about on Schumacher Road, in my opinion, is a much different situation. Okay, it's creating an additional southern entrance into your community. As some of you may or may not know, the only county road is Sun and Lake Boulevard that comes in the main entrance to your community here. And as you know, that road is becoming more and more traveled. So I feel, of course, it takes me and 2 other commissioners to do anything. I feel one of our responsibilities of the county is to look at that as time progresses. If we don't, in my opinion, if we don't create another entrance, this southern entrance, then we're going to have to look at making improvements to Sun and Lake Boulevard, whether that's adding a 3rd lane coming in and out, and you're looking at something that would be at a much, much, much higher cost to do. So one of the ways for us to solve that issue with the traffic load on Sun and Lake Boulevard is to create a Schumacher Road southern exit and entrance to the community. So that is one of my goals moving forward in our budget cycle, is to try to get some more of that funding. Last time we did some cost analysis on that, and if we paid just half of Schumacher, which would be down to about where Cortez would come out, the last figures we had was $300,000 to $350,000. At $100,000 set aside this year, I'm going to push for a couple $100,000 this year to get us real close. And as we're doing that, then that will give us some money to start the design phase and the engineering phase. So when the rest of the money comes available, that we're ready to proceed and finish that project.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. Just like y'all, it's budget time. And the latest report that we've had from our property appraiser's office, and we haven't gotten those figures yet, the property values are looking to increase in the county about 10 to 10.5%. You're going to see an increase in your property values over last year. Okay.
Wow.
We haven't made a decision yet on the millage rate. And, we reduced the millage some last year to help compensate some and give back some of that property increase back to the taxpayers. And we will be looking at that again this year. Just a little general note that I found interesting was our annual budget right now for Highlands County is $168 million. Manatee County, just an hour west to us, their proposed budget for 23-24 is $2.1 billion.
No.
I was floored. I was absolutely floored. Some of that close, $2.1 billion. Their law enforcement budget is $190 million a year. That
More
exceeds
than
our entire budget for the year. So certainly, as we see Florida grow and things start to move inland, those challenges come along with it. But other than that, that's all to report for today, unless anybody's got any questions.
No, but sure appreciate the effort.
Good. Absolutely. We'll see you next time, and I'll keep you updated on those things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, moving on to the action agenda. The first one is the Hornick agreement. Dan, would you go ahead and explain this for us, please?
Can we get a motion in a second? Motion in a second to discuss?
I'll second it. I don't need a motion to discuss. I need a motion to accept.
Need a motion that we've always done it, a motion and accept.
We haven't been doing a motion to discuss. You say we have to have one just to discuss it?
If there's an item that's on the agenda, if there's no motion and no second to discuss it, we can't discuss it. That's the way
I thought
we've literally always done it.
Motion was required to accept it or reject it.
No, we end up voting on the motion eventually.
Yeah.
Once the motion is made.
Well,
I'll second it. I make the motion.
okay. Now, do we have to vote on it?
No, we're going to discuss it now. Now we can, so with but basically what this is there is sections of the golf course. In the past, we have the district maintained. In the past, the district transferred sections of the golf course to adjacent parcels in order to avoid having to maintain them. I don't know how many times it's been done in the past, but it's multiple. So this section, did they get a map or no?
No.
No.
Yeah, so there's a map in the district office if you want to see specifically where it's at. It's over there near, what is it, Hampton Woods? What's the name of that development?
It's actually adjacent to Mr. Hornick's current development, which is Magnolia Place,
In between Magnolia Villas and
the
assisted living
fellowship
facility.
home.
Yeah. So anyway, in between there's several parcels, and adjacent to that, one of those parcels is some golf course land that's not being utilized other than, for just something that the district has to maintain. So this proposal is to deliver that parcel to Mr. Hornick's company so that he can develop this 52 unit?
55.
55 unit development, which we have a proposed plat or a layout in the district office. And in return for receiving this land, he's going to tie together the stormwater system, put sidewalks that connect the Magnolia Golf Villas that go down the right of way to that, connect the sidewalk area.
He's required by the county to do it in front of the development, but he has agreed to extend it past the fellowship home to tie into Hampton Woods. So you would be able to go all the way from Magnolia Place all the way to this building on a sidewalk.
Any board comment?
I guess the only question I have, it was staked, so we went out and took a look at it. But who is going, or what is, he's going to do landscaping across the border with the
Correct.
golf course.
Correct.
What exact, do we know, are we going to ask him specifically what he's going to do and agree to that, or how's that going to be handled?
He has agreed to do, to work with us to both parties' satisfaction and to run irrigation to it as well.
Okay, so is that going to be through the district office or through the golf course? The landscaping, through the district office?
Both.
Both.
He's
So he'll
already
draw-
talked to Jimmy about it, and we don't want to cut the golf course irrigation, which is new. We don't want to cut into that if we don't have to. So he has agreed to run the new property's irrigation to the landscaping.
Okay, so he'll draw up plans that we can see and all that kind of stuff?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I've already talked to Dan about it.
Yeah, this basically saves us having to build a sidewalk in front of the fellowship home. He has to do it in front of the new development, but he does not have to connect it. So if it's any indication, it's costing us $50,000 to run the sidewalk along Columbus Boulevard. This is probably not quite as far, so it's probably half as much. So we're taking a relatively useless piece of property, deeding it to him in exchange for his doing something that we would have to do eventually anyway.
I am just curious, is he going to do this as well as Unit 12 at the same time, do you think? Or is he now prioritizing this over Unit 12
He says concurrently.
concurrent?
His biggest issue is he wants to finish Magnolia Golf Villas before he starts this. He sees this as two different projects.
I think he's only got one more lot to do on.
He's building out Magnolia Golf Villas. Yeah, they're building out now. I don't know how many of them are sold and how many of them
I
aren't.
don't know how many, but I mean, lot-wise.
Correct. He's
the
about
next
done.
one would appear to be the last one.
This is a unique plan that he would have very desirable, 55 very desirable lots. I think it's important to think that we are not waiving any of our permitting fees, which is $7,000 per unit. So out of 55, you can do the math on something that we're getting very little on right now. Plus, it'll go to 55 units at whatever the current assessments are.
Right.
So the district will do well.
Beneficial.
Yeah, and it's going to take a replat. So my guess is it's going to be, 6 months before he can even break ground, because he'll have to get a full replat done.
Yeah, this isn't going to happen quickly, but it will be in the future.
Any other comments from the board? Public comments? Please come up to the, we have to have you come up, sir. Sorry. You have to come up and give your name.
My name's Bill Messline. I live on Calatrava Avenue. And my question is, do you have a picture of this so we could see it, what it looks like, what area, and what part we're giving up to Hornick Homes?
In the district office.
It's in the district office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other comments? Call the vote.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hurley,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
President Herrick,
Yes. Next one is the statewide mutual aid agreement. Do I have a motion to discuss?
So, second.
Would you like to explain that, Cindy?
Yes. So we received a request from the Highlands County Emergency Manager to approve a statewide mutual aid agreement. What this would do is allow Sun and Lake to both render and receive assistance from other jurisdictions in cases of emergencies or disasters that would be too expensive to deal with unassisted, and to ensure our timely reimbursement of costs incurred if we were to render such assistance to other jurisdictions. So this is actually an agreement that gets done annually. So the county is collecting agreements from all the local municipalities and will submit them as a packet with their own agreement to the state. So it is requested that the board, sorry, it says resolution here, but agreement. And you have the full agreement in your packet. I was actually just informed on Friday that the state is making some minor text changes to that agreement. I haven't received those yet. But if you can approve the agreement, we would have that in the minutes to submit with them.
That this is the same agreement we've approved in previous years. So, any other board discussion? Public comments? Call the vote.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hurley,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
President Herrick.
Yes. Motion to discuss the code of conduct for recreational amenities.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Supervisor, so this has been brought to you guys' attention before, but we never actually voted to approve it and have it included in the policy manual. It basically, it kind of expands on what's already in the policy manual and lays out in a little bit more detail what kind of conduct is and is not acceptable and what potential consequences are for violation of the rules. And this would be for all recreational amenities, golf course, pool, racquetball court, all recreational amenities.
Board comment?
Yeah, and I mentioned this before, I still don't understand what the penalties are and how we're going to
I don't-
deal with those. They're not in writing. So if we apply a penalty, I'm worried about consistencies, I'm worried about.
What do you mean by penalty? Like
Well, if somebody does something they shouldn't be doing, it says that the district manager will make the final decision, but what are his guidelines?
well, it's going to be a case by case basis, but it's got listed there the possible action. So it's laid out as a potential, like a tiered system, but a lot of it's going to be based on what the actions are. And basically what this is, I guess the real issue is, the general manager currently has this power. And the decision-making isn't going anywhere. It's still going to lie within the general manager. It's only going to come to you guys' attention if whoever's being punished doesn't accept or is not happy with the decision that's been rendered. So you guys are the appeal committee, basically.
I understand that. But let's take example, problem at the pool, which we've had in the past. It's not in writing that if they do something wrong, it's a 90-day suspension. So is it going to be 30 days one time, 60 days the next time? That's what I'm saying. Do we need guidelines for decisions to be made?
Yeah, we don't need them. I mean, and like I say, it does spell out to an extent what the.
If there's a problem with the pool like that, where does it spell that out? Where would I go to look at that?
Well, it depends on what the violation is. Is it a minor violation, a repeat minor violation, a significant violation? That's what it's going to,
I don't know, people fighting at the pool and cursing.
Okay, people fighting the pool, that could be significant violation.
Center suspension. Up to center and suspension if it's a significant violation.
Well,
It
before,
doesn't say how long that suspension is.
Listen, hopefully we never have to deal with issues like this, but my only concern is if we do, we need to be consistent in how we rule. And without having something to refer to, I don't know how we could do that, or I'm not sure we're able to do that. That's just my opinion.
So, David, now we'll have a policy that will cover everything. Basically.
Well, I mean, we
right?
currently have one.
Right.
But this spells it out a little bit better as about the range of, because right now it basically says if there's a conduct violation, the general manager makes the decision, period.
Right.
This kind of lays it out a little bit more about what people can expect if they're,
Right.
based on the level of seriousness of violation.
Right, and that's what we were looking for. So, I mean, I don't see a problem with what we're doing then, right?
No, I don't see a problem.
Right. Right. And if they don't like what the district manager says, they come here.
Correct.
And they put it in front of us. It's pretty simple.
Am I reading this correctly, understanding that whereas before we had a 3-tier, you had violations, 3 tiers, and now it's 5? Is that correct?
Well,
Is that the way-
yeah, I mean, potentially. So that's, I mean, if someone, starts shooting off a weapon, that's going to be, you're not going through, you're not going to tier that, you're not going to give them, and that's never going to be a minor violation. That's always going to be a serious violation.
It
So-
immediately becomes the
Yeah.
fourth item
Right,
or the fifth
okay.
item.
Mhm. So yeah, there's no requirement that we give them step 1, step 2, and step 3. That's
Okay.
completely up to the discretion of the general manager. You guys deal with it. If the person that's being punished doesn't like their punishment, then they appeal to you guys. Then you guys make the decision as to whether or not the general manager followed, a reasonableness approach.
How does the board find out about something like this?
They have to submit a claim in writing within 10 days. Is it 10 days, Cindy, I think? Yeah,
I'm not talking about if the plaintiff disagrees. I'm talking about how do we find out in general if the general manager takes action?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, the general manager would tell you when you're in your regular meetings, if you want a specific, I mean, if you want a incident report every time that there's a general manager takes action, that's fine, but I understand you guys meet with them pretty
We do.
regularly, so.
We do.
You might not want to be bothered as much as you might be bothered with somebody who is having drinks in the pool or horseplay. I would make the assumption that if you got somebody in a serious violation, then I would certainly inform you, but this happens with some regularity on a minor scale.
Okay.
Any more board discussion? Public comment? Call the vote.
Supervisor Hurley,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
President Herrick.
Yes. Item D, 2023 budget.
Good morning, supervisors. So we had a discussion last week going through all the changes for this format. I'll just kind of recap some of those real quick. There's not a lot of big changes. We have agreed with the 5% membership increase. And that total brings us to the 1.372. We did eliminate the 50% off membership program. So I recalculated our total memberships back to where they were. And I did add a couple because we did sign up a couple new memberships this year. And with that being said, I added $20,000 more in the greens fee total. We also had a discussion about the member tournament schedule, which we're going to adjust. And that, with that being said, I added an additional $5,000 into the greens fees total. So that accounts for that $25,000 in that total line. The other changes that we made was on the capital, which is in the detail budget at the bottom. We added an additional $55,000 for the banquet room partition. And those were all of the changes that we made in that. And that brings our total bottom line net income to $12,174. I think those were all the basic changes from the last one. I don't know if anybody has any more questions for me.
Any board questions concerning the golf budget?
Yeah, you know what? We discussed changing that one price on,
Yes.
and you didn't do it.
If you go to the rate sheet sorry, I did forget that. On the rate sheet, there was one question that came up in the meetings. For the resident member guest rate in April, there was a proposal to change that rate from 45 to 41 to match the hotel rate. I mean, I don't see an issue if we want to go ahead and do that. We can approve it with that one change.
I mean, it's minor. I just wanted the resident rates to be the cheapest rates that we publish. That one was not. So to make the adjustment, it's a $4 change, which is not going to change a hell of a lot. It's 1 month. But at least we can say that the resident rates are the lowest. It's not a big deal.
With that being said, I think if you need an approval today, I think you can amend that, right, and make it with that adjustment. So I'm assuming everybody's okay with that. So I have that adjustment on my sheet.
Where are we at?
The resident rate down the bottom is 45 in the month of April.
Yeah.
He wants it moved to 40 or 41. the
Oh,
Yes,
equal to
yeah.
the hotel
Just
rate.
the April.
I
Yeah,
got it. Got it.
That's one
Yeah, the
click.
rest were fine. It's not a big deal.
I got it. So we'll change.
Yes,
we'll
I
change-
will make that adjustment. Yep.
Okay, good. All right. Any other board comment?
No, my only concern is that you addressed everything we talked about, and I was assured you had, so.
If we're talking about the tournament schedule, I have already started those discussions. Yes, so we're working through that tournament schedule.
I'd like to know what he's talking about.
I'm assuming he's talking about the member tournament schedule.
Yeah, I think we talked the members tournament schedule, where he's taking away the
Oh, is that
three-day
what he's
tournaments.
talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just,
Yep, I have already started that, yeah.
hey,
What was he, Michael, what were you asking about that? I'm sorry, what were you asking about that?
well, when we talked, he agreed to make changes and stuff, and I haven't kept track of it, so I
Right.
just want to make
So-
sure that you addressed everything.
Yeah. He's asking about, so in the last board meeting, the board had agreed that we were going to adjust the member tournament schedule and reduce some tournaments. So he was just following up to make sure that I have been doing that, and I have. We are still working through it, but yes, we have started those talks.
I guess the important thing is that he has changed the revenue
to match.
based on having done that.
Exactly.
Very good, thank you, Mike.
All right, moving on. Any public comment related to the golf budget? All right, move on to the general fund.
Hey, good morning Supervisors. Not much has changed from this budget to last. I'll go through those. But I also think we need to finalize the rates for recreation was a big one. And we can go over the changes that happened. You'll see in other income, it went up slightly to compensate for the addition to the recreation. It went up about 20 grand. There was about a $9,000
Wait,
change.
You're referring to the second set of sheets that it went up 20 grand?
Yeah.
Because the first one,
Yeah, and we'll go over that because I think we need to finalize that recreation, the fees that we're going to,
so which one are you looking at now? The first one or the second one?
for the,
What
should be
you
the
talking
second
about?
one.
Second one.
Second
You're
one.
referring to the recreation sheet?
Yeah, so you're looking at the one we haven't approved yet.
Correct. Yeah, I think we need to go over that. Is that what you're referring to? The next set was security went up 9,000 in expense for a full-time employee that was recently put on. And then equipment and vehicle maintenance went up about 31,000. That was a formula error bringing in the ops supervisor. That wasn't in last meeting's budget. You also see that in capital for the general fund, it went down about approximately 65K for the mini excavator. And per the request, I removed the reserve for contingency down to the bottom line, the net change in the fund. Those were the only changes made to the general fund. We move on to the, do you guys want to have any questions on that? So the net will be about 310,000. That will be the net change in the fund, positive 310.
I'm sorry, we're taking the 620,000. Oh, no, I'm misreading it. I'm sorry. You're good.
The capital fund,
That's just capital fund, yeah.
that's the improvement fund. Capital improvement fund is what we're setting aside.
Yep, so you'll have 310 on this budget to move. You can move it to capital, you can move it, you can put it in different reserves. With the increase, we've talked about moving that, I think it was 2.5% of that over into a reserve. And we've also talked about restricting some of the funds going forward. Maybe that's we need to discuss in a future period, which account, making sure what it's, approved to be, what's to be approved, be spent on. I know wastewater treatment plant is, the main topic.
Right.
No, no offense, but we've talked about this now for 3 meetings. And I think we all had agreed to put it into an account that can't be touched, that says funds for water plant or whatever.
Yeah.
So what is the problem? You want to rediscuss that again?
I think, so my understanding is a few boards ago, all the funds were to be used sharingly. The board has to approve restricting some of these funds to be used.
We've already talked about this.
I don't think it was approved upon. I think it has to be voted on. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that
We're
right?
voting
David?
on the budget. If we approve it to be done in the budget, you do it in the budget, and then we approve it when we approve the budget. Is that not
Does
correct?
that satisfy it? If it's,
Yeah, potentially that's sufficient, but I mean, the board could always vote to approve a budget amendment that could change that. I mean, if you're wanting, the only way that I'm 100% certain that, and let's say 99% certain that you can completely restrict the funds if you're going to put them in some sort of irrevocable trust, so that a future board could not come in and change it. So you just have to basically, if you're putting it in a restricted fund, you have to have faith that future boards are going to.
Exactly.
You know what, as I've been told, future boards can do whatever the hell they want to.
That's
And
correct.
that's fine.
Mhm.
But this board, if we decide to do it, we should do it. And then let somebody else change it down the road if they want to.
Yeah,
We have a very bad habit of not saving money for things that need to be done.
You can absolutely put it in a fund that's known as a restricted fund.
Well, I thought we decided that 2 meetings ago.
So did I.
I believe that needs to be voted on. And I don't know if it was or not. I don't think.
Well,
It's
but
part of the budget.
If you vote to approve,
if we amend this budget that we're currently working on to say, we want that 310,000 put in a restricted fund, period, included in this budget, then it's done.
Correct. You don't have to have a separate, there's no need to
No.
separately.
Right.
So that's, the current position is to make that a restricted fund. If the board votes to approve that budget, that'll be done.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, and then nobody can touch it.
Until the next guy says.
Unless you take
That's
a new vote in the future. It would take a new
Right,
vote in the future
okay.
to do something
As
about
long
it.
as we do
I
what we
thought we
think is the
voted on
right
it too.
We
thing.
agree to do
You
it.
have to keep in mind that this is a projection. You're not necessarily going to have 310,000. You might have 309,999,
Exactly.
or you might have 311. So we can absolutely put $310,000 in a restricted fund today. There is $6 million in excess. So, I mean, we can do that. If that's what you want done, we'll do that. Should be a lot more than that, but we'll do that.
True. But that's
So
what
do we have to vote on that, or is that done already?
it will be in the budget.
Okay.
If we amend this budget to include, We're discussing the new budget and we want a restricted fund of $300,000 in that fund. In just a minute, sir.
Yeah, and it sounds like, I mean, that's what the whole board wants. You know, I mean, if there was some sort of, pushback by one or two board members, we'd have a specific vote, but it doesn't sound like that's the issue, so.
Right. Okay. We'll get to public comment after we get done with the board discussion. Okay?
So on the final, when we see it at the end of next month, that's when we see it next, right? That, it'll be reflected on that. Okay.
No, restricted. No.
Wait a minute, you can't.
He is an attorney.
That's good, he's an attorney. Bottom line is, once you get it in trust, it's.
We're not talking
We're not
about,
doing-
we're not
we're not
talking
doing
about
a
trust. We're not talking about
We're
trust.
just identifying that we want this money put into what we call a restricted fund, not irrevocable.
That's an excellent idea.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, any other questions on the general? All right, moving on to the utility fund. The only
But
changes.
don't we have to decide on the rates yet, or you don't want to do that?
I was going to finish that up at the
Okay,
end. Is
that's
that all
fine.
right?
Go to utility.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
The only changes that were made on the utility fund were the 65K mini X hit capital.
Yes.
It's just a transfer from general to utility.
So you'll see that dropped the net change in funds to 174,000. And same with that, we can restrict those funds as well.
You have a problem with that, Mike?
I thought it was 55,000, not 65.
It's 65. Been 65.
Originally, we talked about 55, that's what I was
Been
told.
65.
Smaller unit, the 65 is a bigger one, and it has the knuckle on it as well, so you can pick up pipe with it.
All right, I just want to, I know I'm getting Alzheimer's, but.
All right, so if no questions, we can move on to the rates. I believe everybody was okay with the 5% increase over this year's. Correct me if I'm wrong. We
On
agreed to
assessments?
that? Yeah, on assessments. Same with utility rates. We agreed to do the 5.2% increase on utility rates. I think everybody was in agreement with that.
What the hell is it?
About 3 pages from the last.
Those utility rates have been published last year, so that's a 5-year projection. They don't have to be re-advertised unless we do something with the new wastewater plant and they change, then we'll need to do that.
All right.
All right. Is everybody good with those increases? Agree to? All right, and then the next is the recreation. We were trying to determine what amounts, if any, we want to increase recreation, depending on whether it be racquetball, pool, whatnot. I believe you have 3 options there, or to keep it the same. Second section for a slight increase, and then the third section, another increase.
No, there's only 2 sections.
There's only
There's
2.
only 2 of them on this one.
It's current and proposed.
I think I sent out a updated one, or I think we sent out an updated proposal.
The first columns are current.
Yep.
So there's 2.
I only received 1, current and proposed.
Page 256 of 263,
Huh?
right?
Let me I can pull it up.
Oh, that page. Well, it goes from 112 to 140 at the bottom, right?
Yes.
Correct.
That's the only one we got.
They're working off the one that they were given.
All right. Let me, if you'll see the screen, I'll try to zoom in. You can see there was, well,
We didn't get that.
so there was a suggestion to change, if you'll see this section right here, change the racket club, residential individual, we had it at 100. There was a recommendation to see it at $50 instead of the 100. My apology,
Where did that recommendation come from?
supervisor had requested that. We just wanted to see a side by side. So if you'll see the screen, you'll see there's not much of a change in dollar amount between the $100 and $50. You'll see if we change it to 100 and 175 and highlight it in yellow, you get about $54,000. If you change it to 50 and 100, it's about 41,000. So it's very small changes, $10,000. It really became a question of what do we want to charge the residents for racquetball? Do we want to stick to what we discussed last time, what was brought up? Or do we want to lower the amount for individual racquetball rates?
I like this budget. I don't think $100 for an individual is that much. I really don't.
I agree.
So let me see if I got this right.
I didn't hear what.
You want to take the membership from 720 in the racket club down to 360. So you're going to cut the membership in half, and we're going to upset about 220 people by saying you now have to pay between $100 and $175 to join.
See where.
And all of this is for $20,000 increase in the bottom line. Is that pretty much it?
It's 30,000.
The question is, how many people who are now free will actually pay the $100? So the impact to the budget is not certain by any stretch.
We're going to upset a lot of people.
They paid $100 before, and it would seem to me like they ought to be.
They're paying nothing now. We're
I know,
taking the
but that
rates,
was for
we're
1 year.
taking the gas up,
That's because you
we're
did.
taking the golf up, we're taking the assessments up.
So why not take the
We're doing this for
racquetball up?
20 grand?
But everybody should have a part, in my opinion.
Everybody pays assessments in this place. They do have a
All
part.
right, and I pay golf membership too. And these people pay $125 to go ahead and use the swimming pool. I'm just saying that's a small price for them to pay to play for the racket club.
I'm just saying, is this the time to upset a lot of people?
We've already,
No matter what we do, we upset them.
yeah,
Well.
it's the 5% here, 5%
Right.
there. It's
So,
Okay,
so
you guys
do we
don't see
take a
any
vote
harm in it? That's
on,
fine.
do we take a vote on that cost?
if it's
No,
currently
wait a
it's
minute.
included in the budget.
Okay, and I'll go, okay,
So we don't have to vote on it. It's included.
It's included right now.
okay.
What's included?
The
rates.
$100, the rates are included in the budget.
The rates determine the revenue.
Well, the original budget that I got said 100, it was based on 112, correct?
The current budget now has the
This rate,
$100 rate.
exactly.
That's
The
the
one that was-
second one that you sent
That's
out.
the increase of 20,000 in revenue versus prior budget. And so that was a comeback to you guys and see.
It comes
which-
back to
which
the
direction-
original thing that you sent out. You sent out 2 cover sheets. One was without and one was with.
Yeah, and it was only 20 grand
It
is
was
what we
20
had.
grand. That's what we're having this conversation over 20 grand.
You're having
The
the conversation.
the 20,000 is an estimate. It could be 20,
Could
it
be more,
could be
could be
30,
less.
it could be more than that. It depends on how many really want to play. And I should point out that people, well, I won't point that out. It is what it is. It's up to you guys, whatever you want it to be.
So, yeah, it's really at the discretion of the board, which direction of the board, which route do we want to go? Do we want to start charging a rate or not?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
That's
other
it.
comment on the general fund? So let's run over the budget summary of all funds. You want to get that up on the screen?
Yeah.
Where's that?
The one that was sent out, the last one that was sent out. Did you make copies? You talked about making copies
Yeah.
for people. Make sure everybody's got what, so we know what the hell we're talking about.
It should be identical with the exception of that.
Okay.
While he's doing that, I'll just comment that all three funds are positive. There are no negative bottom lines.
So the big mover was the 65K Mini X, moving it from general to utilities because it was determined utilities would use it more than the general guys would. Granted, both sides can use it, but utilities would use it 80% of the time, most likely. So it's going under their budget.
That's fine. That's good.
So you saw an increase in the in the funds for the general and the net funds, and then a decrease for utilities because it's taken on that 65K for the Mini X.
So we know this is not correct, right? Oh, we don't know, you don't think?
This is correct
This
because
is correct,
this one
except that
includes
the monies that we discussed 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, this includes the $100 we were discussing.
The monies we discussed 12 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Which is be put in reserve for the water plant is not reflective in here. So the $496,000 is really only 100 and some odd thousand. Is that correct?
You can put 300
can
if
put
that's
the
what
full-
you direct us to do. That's exactly what we'll do. We'll put it into a restricted fund.
But
Right, so it
money's-
becomes an expense and therefore it comes out of the total, correct?
No, it's just part of the fund.
No.
We could put a line item in there if you want us to have a restricted
Well,
amount.
we're freezing 300,000 out of the 496. Don't we show it anywhere?
Well, yeah, it was suggested to put that number down at the bottom. Originally, we had it in reserves for contingencies. We'll have a similar account for restricted funds.
What?
But if the board wants to see, originally, the board wanted to see the net change in funds down at the bottom. I was directed to. But it was originally in reserves, which is, we can highlight it as restricted funds. And then we can put whatever's left down at the bottom line if that's how the board wants to see it. I agree with you. I think it should be highlighted in reserves for contingencies or restricted funds. And then whatever the net is, you can have down at the bottom.
Right, so as I said, this is not right.
This will get updated
Right.
with a line on it, but just so you know, I had it in reserves.
He's saying no and you're saying yes. Which one?
No, I think he's
going like this.
It's immaterial. You could put $1 million in reserves and restricted if that's what y'all direct us to do. The money, there's $11 million in the bank, plus or minus right now. There's probably another 3 or 4 million that's going to get spent over the next 4 or 5 months. But there's money.
There's money there.
I know there's money there, but if we don't start putting it into a special account, you know what's going to happen.
Why can't we just?
It's going to keep getting
What's going to
built up.
happen? Well, what's going to happen, Ray?
We're going to forget about it and spend it. Like we always do. You guys, we raised the rates on the utilities
We will amend.
5% with the intention of trying to save money. And what happened? We spent it. We raised the assessments another 5% and we spend it. You don't see a trend here?
We can put 300,000 in. We can put just as easily 500,000.
Hey, I don't care what you do
It
with the
doesn't
money,
matter.
okay?
Wherever you want it to be, that's where we'll put it. It's all mingled. And if you want a restricted account, say where it is. We actually have the restricted account. We'll put it in there.
We will, in my opinion, we can amend the motion to approve this budget based on the understanding that a fund of a minimum of 300,000 will be put into a contingency fund on a line item.
Very good. It's a good idea.
Yep.
Then everybody's happy.
Can someone make that motion?
I'll make a motion to take the 310,000 and put it in a restricted fund. Okay?
And we're just amending
We're amending
this budget.
This budget.
So it'll have a
It
line
will
item.
be reflected. There's a line item of 310,000 in the reserve
Okay.
account.
Right.
Okay. Any other board discussion? Public comment? Call the vote.
Supervisor Brooks,
Me? Not until I see it, no.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hurley,
Yes.
President Herrick.
Yes. All right. The next item is whether or not there's any need to keep, we originally had Tuesday, July 11th, Tuesday, August 8th, and Tuesday, September 12th as additional meetings for the purpose of trying to finalize the budget. With the budget just being approved, it would appear we need a motion to discuss.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Now we can discuss it. Since we have already canceled, since we have approved the budget, these meetings are no longer required because that's what the intent was behind them. We could go back to our once a month meeting on the last Tuesday of the month as identified. Therefore, my announcement in the beginning is wrong in that it would be July 25th
Yeah,
will
July
become the next meeting.
Okay.
Any board discussion? Any public discussion? Call the vote.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hurley,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks.
Yes.
President Herrick.
Yes.
So the next
Okay,
meeting is
add-on
the
items.
25th.
None,
Petitions and communications.
none.
Staff reports. Mike Lemire, Jimmy Murphy.
Good morning, Supervisors. Just, I think we got our staff reports in. Just a quick update. We're still trying to finish moving the dirt off of hole 15. Been working with district on Bob, trying to get all that moved. We're still out trying to spot spray a little bit. We got a couple of areas that our pre-emerges wore out on, and we're trying to get that. We still have some sod work, and we have a couple of trees, one on 12 and one on 4 that I'm going to try to get removed as well. Other than that, we're just getting ready for our next verification, which is turtle on July 10th. July 10th will be our next verification. And then August 28th on deer. And other than that, we're just trying to stay ahead of all the mowing.
Jimmy, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Is it riprap?
Rip wrap, yes, sir.
Are you going to buy any this year according to the budget?
We have some, Bob and I have been kind of sharing it right now. I think been working on some of the ditches. We got a couple of bridges to fix on Turtle where the water was low and it washed out. Some of that money I moved to the parking lot and did the foxtail palms, and I got probably 3 loads of it right now that I'm going to still try to continue on just right now with the summer.
Did we spend the 25,000?
No, sir. No,
Are
sir.
Are we going to?
I've spent probably about 8,000 of it, but will I use it all? Probably not. Just because I don't have the manpower to do it right now. I mean, the goal was to try to do a little bit more of it this winter, and that's about the time we can do it. So the way our budgets are hitting, I really need to get on it in October through January in order to do it. But with the, I mean, we're going to get as far as we can with it, but we can still buy it. Right.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, you got 25,000 each year. If you're not going to use it, maybe it was a bad number. If it's a good number, buy it and use it when you
Well,
can.
I mean, we all know that there's plenty of ponds we can use it. It's just having the manpower to do it.
Well, perhaps we should buy it and store it then.
Yes, sir. And that's something that when we get towards the end of the budget, we'll definitely look at. I mean, we still have some sod. We've talked about some areas that we still want to try to sod. Will I use it all for the riprap? Probably not. But there's definitely a lot of areas we still need to continue to fix.
Okay. I know we're going to be going right back in and start aerating again, but can we increase the speed on the greens at all?
I can. We're at 135. That's as low as we've been since I've been here. When I got here, you were at 175. Right now, the greens are as healthy as they've ever been with me here.
Right. I agree.
So we got a little bit of grain. So I'm trying to massage them. So next week, well, actually tomorrow, I'm going to verticut turtle, get it down. But we're at 135 thousandths right now, which is basically what we figured the other day, Mike, about an eighth of an inch.
What's the stint?
They're probably about a 9. I mean,
really? You think so?
We stinted them before we airified them. Yeah, we could. I mean, they're definitely not. They're not tournament greens right now.
It was just something that it seemed like we could maybe increase them a little bit.
I mean, definitely. I mean, we play on Tuesdays. We talk about it all the time. You know, my goal is to try to keep them at 10. But right now, I just don't, you know, the only days I can really be aggressive right now is the 2 weeks that were closed. So when I was closed, I backtracked, verticut them, which basically I went up one direction, came right back down the direction. We removed a lot of thatch off of them. We're going to do it again on the 10th on turtle.
Okay.
I would love to verticut more and top dress more. You know, that was our goal, trying to figure out this week what we could do. I still need a little bit more sand on deer as well. But I'm definitely working on trying to get the height down. We're pre-mowing them every 2 weeks and with the growth regulators, and just need to verticut a little bit more, and I think we can get our speed that we're after.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning again, supervisors. A couple quick notes. The last few meetings, we haven't talked about the membership dollar because it hadn't changed, but it did go up just a little bit. Over the last 2 weeks, we had a couple memberships that signed up. Those were prorated memberships as we're getting to the end of the year. So it wasn't a huge change, but it did change a little bit. So still sits at 99%. It's about $7K off from budget. On the golf hop side, I'm sure you're going to see lots of kids running around today. We do have, number one, we have kids camp. We also have the Sertoma Junior Tours out there today. So a lot of kids running around. Love to see that. We have fantastic junior programs in this county. So there's probably over 100 kids on property today. So that's great for the future of golf in our county. Coming up, tournaments. We got the MGA Independence Day Couples Tournament, which is on the 3rd. And we do have the Kim Ghost Memorial Tournament on the 29th. We have hosted that one over the last several years. On the F&B side, we have fireworks on the 3rd as well. So we do have a buffet in the restaurant. So we'll have some folks come in and we do offer them some private lawn seating to spectate the fireworks. We do have live music on the 21st. Bingo night will be on the 24th. Do note there will not be trivia this month due to the guy that does trivia is not available this month. So we are skipping July for trivia. I think he's doing some vacation time. Chef update. So good news. Yesterday I did get a verbal commitment for a new chef in the restaurant. Her name is Teresa Johnson. So currently we'll have to work through all the paperwork, background checks, onboarding and such. So we're looking at approximately a 2-week window where she'll get started, and approximately a 2-week overlap on top of that with transition from chef to chef. So really exciting news. Looking forward to working with Teresa. On a general note, we do look, every summer, we're trying to control our labor costs in the off season. Sometimes that can be a challenge, but so working to do that. Just note, when we do the chef transition, there will be a little bit of an extra labor expense on the F&B side with that small overlap. A lot of our marketing, we're trying to market out of county, trying to get folks to travel. Just went to our North Florida PGA section meeting yesterday and talked to a lot of folks from Sarasota. There's a lot of courses over there. They're closing down for the whole month of July. There's like 3 of them, 3 big courses over there. So they have a little bit of a demand issue that I'm going to try to target, see if we can get some folks to travel from Sarasota. As I've spoke, the RFP is out for the paint and the stonework. I'm not sure when that's scheduled to be done. That RFP goes through the 5th or something. Is that correct? Somewhere in that area?
I think it's Monday.
But so we'll wait for that to come in. We have, usually in the summertime, we do schedule our carpet cleaning in the clubhouse. So last week we did do the bank room already. They do a fantastic job, really cleans it up. So at some point we'll have to navigate some of our folks and probably into the banquet room so we can make room so we can do the rest of the building. So we'll be navigating through that. So we'll be directing traffic a little bit. But other than that, that's all I got coming up for July. So if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Yeah, I got a couple. Forget, you know what? I'm not hearing you very well, so hopefully I'm not repeating what you've already said or you've answered what I'm asking. Have you looked at Monday nights and the performance and decided or justified it's because we used to close Mondays during the summer?
So yes, I have been evaluating that, and we have had the bingo and trivia nights, so they do help out.
I'm just looking at this dinner report. There was 12 dinners on this last report that you sent out on Monday night.
So there's been a couple good nights and a couple bad nights. So I'm gonna check that out.
In the summer?
Yeah.
I mean, what's a good night? Because 12, I mean, to keep a kitchen open for 12 dinners seems to me not to be cost effective.
A good night's probably in the 50 to 60 range for dinner. I mean, you can that reflects on there as well. But so I did on that report, and that stuck out to me too. The 12.
So it's still, you think it's okay to keep it open Mondays?
Yeah, I mean, that was one Monday.
I'm sorry?
That was just one Monday. So we do the trivia another week.
That's the only one we've seen from you in a month.
Right. Well, there's 2 weeks on there.
Huh?
Well, I'm sorry. Correct. I'm sorry. Not on that report. There's not a 2-week overlap, but you'll get another one.
I'm just throwing it out that if it's not working.
No, you're correct. No, you're correct. And I have been monitoring that. That number stuck out to me too. So I do like staying open on Monday nights, but you're right. At 12 covers, it's not efficient, and we're spending more labor than we are bringing in a revenue.
I'll leave it up to you, but if you can't justify the cost, just close it on Monday.
Excuse me, how many covers did you do on bingo night?
The bingo night,
It was full.
It was like 45 or 50, I believe.
Exactly.
So that Monday obviously works out really good, but.
And the trivia night, Monday before that?
That one I don't know off the top of my head, but I can follow up. And if I have a recommendation, I'll definitely let you know as opposed to Monday nights for sure.
So it's not, the 12 was not the norm. It was the abnormal.
No, that was just a regular Monday.
I just wanted that on the record.
What?
And it may have been an anomaly.
12 is not normal.
Well, I know, that's why I looked at it. It's very abnormal.
Yeah.
Well, I would make the assumption you got to have staff there if you're going to have a special deal like the bingo night or whatever. So you don't have to put that many more staff.
I'm just throwing it out to you to look at.
It's the off Mondays. He's correct, and we are looking at it. Yep.
This is for both you guys, I guess. We talked about at the last meeting, the chipping area. I think Craig brought it up by our chipping area. Are you guys going to try and come up with a different plan for us, or we're just going to let it go for a while?
Well, I know you guys don't feel like a whole lot of people use it, but there is quite a few that do use it. And, you know, I hate to waste the money. It was $35,000, but
Makes 2 of us.
I think if you talk to a lot, I mean, I don't know whether we do a Survey Monkey I hate to do those, but I think that there's a lot more people use it than you think use it. And I'm not trying to hold it. I just know that there's quite a few people that like it. I think there's a couple of options that we could possibly do a hole in between a hole somewhere. If you wanted to extend a chipping area, like I said, I had golf courses before that we had a designated area that was a 100-yard shot or whatever that people could go and do that. You guys have the property that we could do something like that. We would have to add some additional irrigation, whatever.
I'm just asking what our plans are, so if somebody says to me, what are we doing with the chipping green, I can give them an answer. That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Brooks, I think the best thing right now would be to do a survey. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people that enjoy it just as well. I get more compliments on it than I do non.
Yeah, just so you know, Jimmy, I'm not in favor of moving that. I mean, this is, it looks nice. People use it.
It serves a good purpose because it's right near the putting green. They can go over there and hit a 30, 40-yard shot, and it's a great staging area.
And we also spent 35,000 on that to fix it. And now we want to eliminate it.
Nobody said
I mean, I'm with Mike. I mean, I think you should leave it there and, people will start using it. The problem is people hate change.
I agree.
Okay? So they hate change, so they don't want to move. Eventually, people will start getting there. It's by the putting green. We spent 35,000, right? We argued and argued and argued. Why don't we just leave it and let it go? I mean, we keep spending money on everything and I don't know.
Would you like to do a survey?
No, I don't think we need a survey.
I just asked the question.
There is no survey.
I brought it up. To me, I don't like it.
Right.
But that's my prerogative.
Right, that's when, you're right.
So move on. Let's go.
So we're going to leave it as is.
Yep.
Yes.
That's fine, I
Yes.
just want to know.
Yes. We spent 35,000. Why don't we leave it as is and let people start using it?
That's fine.
It's been there for 3 years and nobody uses
I guess just one last note. We do have a meeting at 1 o'clock to do, we're going to walk around the clubhouse just to, with the roofer, just to verify that everything's complete to the spec, so.
That reminds me of one thing. I see we did the cart barns with the nice metal roofs. The cart barn by, up here at the corner, is that going to be done too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
I think it's every roof on the property. Every roof on the property will be done.
Good.
Paid for by the insurance company.
Okay, thank you. General Counsel, David?
Okay, I don't have a whole lot, but there's a little bit of an update on the Avanti situation. The court has laid out basically a timeline that it's not going to alter. It's put it on the 18-month, so it will definitely be done. The issue will be resolved by the end of next year, but there is a specific date of May 15th, 2024 that we have to have mediation completed. So we're still going through unofficial mediation right now. I know there's been some back and forth, and I meet with Mr. Rhodes tomorrow to get an update on the informal mediation, but at some point in the future, when that mediation occurs, we'll have to have another shade meeting. So I'll let you guys know when that's, when we're looking to have that happen, but it has to be before May 15th of next year.
And it has to be done?
The mediation has to have occurred by that date. So
Okay.
there's a chance if we can't get it settled informally, whenever we have that mediation date, because I'm sure that mediation date will be before the 15th, because we're not going to want to do it on the very last day. But there's a potential that, we can have a resolve by then. But if not, it's a guaranteed to be done by next year, end of next year for certain. Because we will have to have, according to the court, we have to have a jury trial before the end of next year.
Guaranteed, you said?
Guaranteed.
Okay.
Well, as you know, we went back to them with our initial, this is what we think you owe us.
Right.
We haven't had a response from them, to my knowledge.
Yeah, they're basically looking for what they were claiming is they want some justification for the number that we gave them. So we're working to show them, based on our new agreement, to have the new meters put in. We're going to use that information as our basis for here's how we came up with our initial demand number.
All right.
Good.
Because we really shouldn't have to be redoing meters.
Right.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Right.
We should have another 8 to 10 years on what we got.
I got a question. Where are we with the county? It's been 8 months. Think we can get a decision on anything?
You mean on the voting issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm developing, the county, finally got a response from the county attorney. They're requiring us to do what's called a notice of legislative intent. That basically spells out, here's what the request is that we're asking for, and here's what we want you to do. So I am drafting that, probably plan on having it at the next board meeting brought forward for, potential approval as to that going out. So, but that's where we're at. We're close to, once we submit that notice of legislative intent, it's supposed to go on the agenda.
So we would see it, say, the end of July.
Yeah, potentially.
The county would get back to us. I mean, I guess my question is, we're getting very close to January.
Mhm.
What is our time, if you work the timetable backwards to a landowner's seat, how much time do we actually have before we have to?
Well, for a landowner seat, if I'm remembering correctly, it's 60 days. So the landowners meeting is at the end of January. And there's the qualification period is starts 60 days before that and ends 30 days before that meeting. So you're probably looking at November, December for the qualification period. So hopefully we will have a resolution from the county before that occurs.
Because remember, we only have a meeting once a month now, so you're talking the end of October.
Right, well, I'm not saying, I'm talking, this will be so our next meeting is July 25th.
I know.
So the
Start the process in October by hiring the accountants. So once.
the consultant, the election consultant, yeah. Mhm.
So that has
So
to
we're
be
back to
done in
September.
October.
Well, that's all we do is put them on notice that because if we only have one person that qualifies, there's no election.
That's right.
And then we don't need them. So the main question is well, we won't know if we're going to have an election until the qualification period ends, which is basically towards the end of December, if my calculations are right. But like I said, the goal is, at the next board meeting, I'm going to have the drafts, the notice of legislative intent for the board to approve. If that gets approved at the July 25th meeting, then it goes to the county and they put us on the agenda. So we don't know where on the agenda we'll be, but
So chances are we're going to have a landowners meeting. Is that basically what we're
it's
looking at?
possible. It's definitely possible.
I think it's highly probable.
Yeah.
We don't
I
know
think it's
where on
highly
the agenda or which agenda. We don't know where on the agenda or which agenda, so it could be August, could be September. I mean, we just don't know. It could be later.
I thought in addition to the voting situation that we were talking about garbage can, I mean, wasn't there other?
Yeah,
stuff
there's
that-
those other little things, but basically this is the first time we've been asked to do this. Normally this is done by the county attorney. So basically she punted it back to me to.
But that only pertains to the election. What about the other stuff?
No. This is for all the revisions. We sent them all the revisions that we want.
So everything we gave them in November, now we have to redo extra
No, we're not
information?
redoing anything.
Huh?
We're basically they basically they want a document, they want a one pager that, summarizes what all these requested changes are doing. Which was normally done by the county, now it's being done by me, but.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Dane, Finance Director?
Yep, morning again. Like Mike was saying, the RFP for the paint has been sent out last week. Saw some possible vendors just walking here just recently. That we should be getting the bids all in July 5th and go through that whole process. And then my assumption is probably the next couple of weeks, the painting process will start. Cameras, those are 95% of the way there. We're supposed to have the installer come Wednesday and show security how it all works. And then we're also going to have an advisor from the camera company come and do some training as well to show some of the special options it has and teach training to anybody that will use it. We have a list of users, security being the number one user.
On the cameras, since we thought we were going to have them installed a long time ago, but now that the recreation area is opening up, do we have cameras there?
Yep, so I've advised Sunday to look at that, make sure that area is covered. Like I was saying a couple meetings ago, we can put a camera on a pole out there. Cameras run about 250 to 350.
So do we have,
I haven't seen the coverage yet because he was working on the software side of it, but it should, he said it's got good, I made sure to tell him that, you know, we've got to have good coverage around the community center. And the
I mean,
pool.
I would think before we open it up, we should have cameras there, just in case.
I think I think that shouldn't be a problem doing it. Camera doesn't take too long to install for them.
I mean, unless you
But we
guys
got to
disagree.
see where the coverage, I don't know what the coverage is right now. He hasn't shown me, but he's showing Sunday tomorrow all the coverage that it has. And I've informed both her and him that the playground, basketball courts, and everything around here is a high priority.
Are the
being
cameras
covered.
working now?
Most of them are, yes. There's a couple that he's had issues with, but he can replace, like I said, replace those for 250 to 350 each.
So
What's the maintenance agreement we have with that company? I mean, what's the warranties on that, all that stuff?
Yeah, the manufacturer, I think is, I don't have my notes in here, so I'm calling off of memory. I think it's 1 to 2 year manufacturer, and the guy who's installing it guarantees his work. And I'm gonna have to get back to you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to you. I don't have those notes again in front of me.
Okay.
But we went over that earlier, and it was pretty good warranty on it.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the camera cost is about 25,000, right? Is that what you told
Yeah.
us? And the proposal to put the cameras in was 21,000? That's what we paid.
No.
I think it was around, under that $25,000 mark.
So 21 to find
Originally,
out.
it was going to be 35, 45,000. And we
Okay.
got it down to 25, under 25.
I'll leave it up to you guys. I think having cameras is essential if you open it up. If there's kids there playing around.
I informed them both, like I said, Sunday and the camera installer, that this place needs to be completely covered. And that includes basketball and playground. So we had always discussed putting some out there on the pole. I think there's a light pole out there, and having that feedback over here.
Where's the master TV that you can see all the screens on?
Security.
Security will
Security.
be using
Security
it
has it?
most of the time. And there's different levels of access. So somebody can't go in and erase something. Security has full access. There'll be the admin.
Okay.
And then like over here, they'll have, Sarah will have a pretty high access, but the attendants will have just kind of a read on or a live view access only.
I was just wondering where the main board is going to be. At
It'd
security.
be security, yeah.
Is there a main board?
It'll be their computer screen, yeah. So they can see all, I think he said around 50 cameras. So he'll have full access to all 50 of them. And they can get it on their phone as well. So they can see live view on their phone and do some functionality on their phone. So it's pretty impressive what it can do, what I've seen. Moving on, like Mike was saying, the roofs continue to get done. Yes, that cart barn will get done just like every other building in the district. I've informed them we have a meeting with them today. The big issues are, well, just reviewing the clubhouse, but also making sure we've had issues with some of the screws falling down. Some other little metal flakes falling down into the concrete and grass areas, and trying to mitigate that as much as possible by putting tarps down or doing other mitigation things just to keep that from happening. We had some issues when they were doing the bathroom over here at the pool that we want to keep from happening again. So we're going to meet with him today at 1 and just make sure that they're going over the place a couple times with the magnets and tarps and anything else to keep any issues from arising. The meters, mid-July is when they're supposed to start working, going in. So we should see some guys around the district with some trucks and maybe around your houses, just as a heads up that they're going to be starting the install mid-July. ARPA continues to go well. We should be getting our first big check here in a week or two. And it should be wrapping up this year. So we should be done with that.
This fiscal year or year end?
I think majority of it's going to come in fiscal. I think some of these Thompson pumps will be later. It's going to be kind of right on that line of going into the next fiscal year at the end of this. I've informed them to try to get it in, to push them to get it into this fiscal year, but I don't see any issues with reimbursement or anything like that. But a lot of it's been supply chain issues at the beginning of the year that's kind of lagged on into this time of year and towards the third quarter.
Okay.
Did we spend all 561,000 or just the pumps?
Yeah, we've spent it all.
We spent it all?
Mhm.
And we haven't gotten anything from them yet?
Yeah, like
right?
I was saying, we should get our first check next week or the following week.
So they owe us 561,000.
Meters are FEMA continues to go along. The big one is the Columbus area. I know Sunday's been going back and forth with them. So we should be getting closer idea of what the reimbursement timeframe looks like. It is federal government, state government, so there could be lags. But I think hopefully next board meeting will give you a better idea of when we're gonna.
Didn't we, did we not go out for an RFP on Columbus?
We will be going out for an RFP. We could not until now because we didn't have the footage of swales that were damaged that FEMA is willing to reimburse us for.
Gotcha.
So the RFP is now being done and it should be out the end of this week.
Okay. Thank you.
And I believe that's all I had.
I do have one dumb question on the financials. There was three Panera Bread office expenses for $130. Can you tell me what they were? Just send it to me. I can't imagine. Office expense at a Panera Bread.
I would assume that was lunch for the employees.
I didn't hear him what he said.
There was 3 Panera charges for $120 on the financials and just wants to know what it is.
3 different charges?
It was
I'm just
Panera Bread,
curious.
some charges of $120.
I don't really care. I mean, that's fine. I'm just
Panera
curious.
Bread.
I know that they had
That's what he had.
breakfast when Mr. Bossert was here, in meeting with you guys. If you recall, when you were meeting with him, we had breakfast for all of you and him. And we've used them, I think maybe.
It wasn't part of the
It
25 minutes.
just kind of looked weird that it was, Panera Bread. That's all. And under an expense. Could have been under meals, right? Huh?
Normally those go under office expense if it's in the office.
Okay, thank you. I do have one other thing. Do you have a list that you have provided to your successor on outstanding expenses that need to be done and outstanding monies that need to be collected so that when you leave, somebody has something on writing?
Outstanding expenses that need to be done and out.
I don't know. Well, I mean, you know what's going on. I don't. I know what people owe us money. Is that done on paper where anybody can see it?
So are you referring to like maybe ARPA or what are you
Anything.
referring to? Yep. So we've gone through the assessment collection process.
No, I know that you know that. I'm saying, is it on paper so when she takes over, she has something to refer to?
I can write everything down. We've gone over it.
I think it's important that you write everything down for her.
Carl's been working on that for probably the past month, so I think she's probably up to speed.
It's not compiled on one document, but we have everything covered.
I would feel much more comfortable if it's on paper. Remember, you're going to be gone too soon.
Very soon.
Not soon enough, I understand that. But, we have to be careful that we don't lose track of where we are.
Yeah, we moved Coral over there probably a month ago, so she's pretty much up to speed, as is Dossie up to speed with her job, so.
And I've always got my phone with me so she can call me if she has any questions. But I'll write everything down that I can think of.
Okay.
Mr. Stiegel, General Manager.
Just to reiterate, easy for you to say, right? On the meter project, the collectors are being installed. There are two collectors, one in Tanglewood and one at the main office. They're being installed, I think, next week. As soon as they're installed, we've been putting in Camstrup meters in the new construction. And as meters went bad, we put in new ones that will report. So that's going to basically give us a couple of weeks trial period, if you will, before the big installation starts. They'll start reporting. Actually, they probably are reporting now, but we don't have the ability to pick it up. So we should feel pretty good about having the ability to get that done before we start putting in 4,000 meters before it's over with. The replacement starts before the end of July on the big installation. So Dana's right, we'll see people around. We will also let people know a week before people are going to start installing meter at your house. They are specifically instructed that when they go to the old meter, if it's in use, if the water flowing through it, they are not to turn it off. So we don't get anybody in the shower that goes dry on them all of a sudden. So if it's being used, they go to the next meter and then come back until that one is not in use. But you'll have notice prior to. I'm sure we'll still get some people calling in saying, who are these people in my front yard or backyard? But that's part of the deal. The dialysis project, Duke Energy and Palmer Electric buried the power cable to the dialysis building Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Finally, I think this is the fourth iteration of that particular schedule. And when I came in this morning, KDL was on site working on the project behind there. Hopefully, I don't know how long it'll take them, maybe until next week, but it could be finished this week. But it is now where we can go ahead and finish it. The Matanzas Drive situation where we had the big debacle last fall with all the storms. There's two last things to be done. We have bored under Matanzas where our people are now going to connect this week the ends of the force main so that will no longer be in the manhole at all. There is one last individual home that was connected improperly. We have the ability now from them. They gave us the ability to fix it for them. So only thing we're waiting on now is the supplies to come in, and then KDL will put it in place, hopefully this week.
Hopefully this week.
We're beginning a new project of locating, marking, and exercising all the valves in the district. That sounds easy, but there's about 1,000 of them. 300 and some are on the hydrants, so they have been located and exercised, but we'll have to do that on an annual basis. So we have all of the water valves all over the district. They haven't been marked, they haven't been exercised, and I was told the last time was like 10 years ago. I don't really know that for a fact, but I know that some of them we can't even find. So we have ordered a magnet to locate them because the valve itself is maybe PVC, but the cap on it is metal. So you got a big magnet so that as you know, the GPS coordinate, you're within 20 feet, you'll find it, even if it's buried. Once we're located, then we'll mark them with blue paint. Then you'll begin a second phase of the project will be to come back and clean out. The valves are basically below ground, so you have to take the cap off, clean it out, and then exercise the valve. We have a vac trailer, which basically vacuums the stuff out that has fallen down into the sleeve. And then there's a exercise, this computer program to keep it from putting too much force behind it and twisting it off. That back trailer is very, very expensive. I think I was told $82,000. I don't really know. But it's not operational right now. So we have it in the shop right now being repaired. As soon as it gets back, hopefully I'll have all the valves marked and we'll be starting that project. It's going to take a couple of months to get it done. You can imagine from the sheer number of them, but we'll get on it. The manhole project, Max Environmental inspected an additional 46 manholes. They repaired and resealed about half of those that needed it. There were 2 that were in the hospital area, in the front of the hospital, where their landscaping was encroaching. The machine that they use to do the sealing is on a trailer, and you have to be able to get it there, and they ask us not to because we'd have to tear their landscaping up. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do it, but they don't want it done right now.
Can we get that in writing so it's not our responsibility?
Probably, I didn't ask. We try to cooperate with the hospital in every opportunity.
I know we do, but I don't want to get in trouble later.
Yeah, I might need them someday. I'm getting old, I might have a heart attack here. As I was directed at the last meeting, I have a contract with Excavation Point to do the sidewalk along Columbus Boulevard for $48,801. So it was below $50,000. The Columbus Boulevard repair, which is the big one out in the back, that'll go out the end of this week. We've been waiting on FEMA. The guy came, obviously they had bigger fish to fry than Sunny Lake with Fort Myers Beach being destroyed. So we finally got the guy here to inspect it, which now we've had everything inspected. We haven't got his formal report yet. We have got verbal from him. This is what the measurements that I came up with. So we have the RFP ready to go. We can't let the contract until we have the formal thing in writing, but we'll get that out this week, and hope it'll be on Demand Star, and it'll be published in the paper as well. Not only for Columbus Boulevard, but for all the swales that were damaged, Minorca, Caballero, there were like 4 of them. That's a pretty big deal. It's probably between $250,000 $300,000 that we will have to advance and then get back from FEMA whenever FEMA deigns to send money to the state, and then the state send it to us. As Dane said, the RFP on the paint is out. That's like 18 buildings in the district. The way we wrote the RFP, we have the ability to pick and choose. So if, say, some of the small buildings, we think we can do it better ourselves or cheaper ourselves with our in-house staff, we will do so. We certainly wouldn't want to do any of the big buildings, but maybe some of the bathrooms on the golf courses or something. We may elect to do that. Just depends on how the price comes back in. The roof, as Dane said, it's on time and on budget. There's only been one change order. One change order, which was a fascia. The fascia was actually spec'd out at 6 inches in fascia, and it's actually 8. So we had a change order to put in bigger fascia instead of the 6-inch. We're meeting with him at 1 o'clock today to look at what they have done. And there's some little issues that need to get taken care of. But I think he's planning on finishing the next 2 weeks and on everything. I do have one thing that we're going to talk to him about today that may be another change order. There's a well building between the Racket Club and Catalina. who knew it was even back there. It's actually, it's our third well, or our first well, our smallest well, put it that way. And the building is out there kind of out by itself, and we didn't include it in the bid for some reason. So I'm going to get him to take a look at doing it now. We could probably do it ourselves, but then you still got to put metal on it. So I think it's fairly small. It may be 12 by 12 or something, not very large at all. Just to kind of update you, we experienced 3 water breaks in the last month in June. The first was sort of self-inflicted. One of our workmen was replacing a valve in our perk pond out on Unit 23 and hit a water line. The break was significant enough that we lost pressure in the water system, and that's why we had a precautionary boil water notice. We were able to maintain pressure at the hospital, so that's our biggest concern, because we really, really don't want to do that to them if we can possibly avoid it. So we were able to maintain pressure there. One of the issues that we ran into is that our phone database hasn't been updated in a while. It's the same database that people give us when they sign up for water. So if they change their phone number and don't let us know, then we're calling the old number. So some people didn't get the call, so we're reaching out to them now and saying, can you give us a new number? And or can you give us a new email address? The second issue was caused by a line breaking under Cadagua Street where it had been previously repaired. Small residential line did not cause the district water system to lose pressure. It very well could have been caused by the break we had at Unit 23, because what happens is you got constant pressure, that's one thing, but when your pressure goes down and then you bring it back up, the weakest place is going to break. And apparently that was the weakest place. I was holding my breath that we didn't have 3 or 4. The third was caused by a 6-inch water line from our well, the same one that I was just talking about the building. Our number 3 well, which is the biggest water well we have, and it's capable of servicing the whole district on its own, has been down now for 3 weeks. We're having it repaired is the best way to put it. It should be finished this week. The other 2 are adequate to service our needs as long as they're both working. When the water line under Sunny Lake Boulevard broke, probably because we were running it wide open because we needed it, you can see on the screen, it was not a pretty sight. It was 8 o'clock Saturday night. They finally finished at 4 o'clock Sunday morning. Sun Lake Boulevard is now open eastbound, but only one lane until we're able to get sufficient compaction and then repave over top of it. We're going to go ahead and bore from one side to the other, just in case we have an issue in the future, because that's an old line there and it could break again. The line's split. There's additionally a 10-inch water line under there. We're going to go ahead and bore that while we're at it. It's about $77 a foot to do it, plus the cost of the pipe. But then we'll have new pipe under there and we won't have to have that issue again.
Oh, good.
Anywhere you got a water break, it's a problem, but when you got it under the main road in the district, it's pretty exciting.
Are we doing a Band-Aid or are we fixing it? I mean, I know if it costs more to fix it, should we not fix it since we have money?
That's what we're doing. That's what I'm talking about, boring under the road and putting in the HV.
So we are going to do it the right way.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, we don't have the money to dig up the whole line, but we do have the money to go underneath Sun Lake Boulevard.
That's fine. Okay.
Dig it. And that's what I'm saying. If you got a water line break out in the field, it's not a big deal. if you got a water line break under Sun Lake Boulevard, it is a big deal. The cost to repair this is probably the dig up and all that stuff you're seeing there is maybe insignificant when you start talking about repaving. And it's our responsibility, even though it's a county road.
That
So
was my question.
we're on it. As I said, it is open now, one lane only, and it's on. There's a cut there with shell rock on top of it that we compacted. And we only use one lane so that if that one ruts up, then we can move to the other lane and redo that one. So I don't have to cut it or close it again, hopefully, until it gets paved. It'll have to be closed when it's paved. But that won't take but, maybe a day. Other than that, it was a pretty exciting week.
I got a question on asbestos pipes. Are we going to figure out or try to figure out to what extent we're in trouble?
I don't know if you define in trouble. We have AC pipe throughout the district, basically anything east of Catalina. There's two schools of thought. One is that the best thing you can do is leave it alone. The other is that you need to replace it. In order to do that, we would have to get a grant to do it because it would be significant, and
Right.
that's what we're looking at doing.
I mean, that report that you sent us said anywhere between, what was it, 2.3 and 6 million?
Something like that.
That's
a pretty good spread, yeah.
And they thought we'd have trouble starting in 2025. I mean, everything's a guess, I understand that.
Yep.
But it should be an alarm for us that we need to possibly figure out what we're going to do if they start going.
We are aware of it. We can repair it as we go. Ultimately, it would be a good thing to get sufficient money to replace all the pipe in the district, not only the AC pipe, but also the old PVC. But it's a question of time and money, just like anything else. I'm aware of it. I have made certain that Mr. Bossert is aware of it. And we are looking now for any grant money that we could get.
So do we know if there are grants available for that type of
They're
project?
looking for.
I'll leave that up to Cindy.
I have done some research on that. I know at the last meeting it was brought up how Avon Park did it. The funding they received to do the same type of project actually came from funds from the Rebuild Florida General Infrastructure Program, which was tied to reimbursement for storms that occurred in 2016 to 17. These were federal CDBG funds that were administered through the State Department of Economic Opportunity. So there actually is a new round of grant funding under that same program that's tied to Hurricane Ian. To Highlands County is included in the most impacted and distressed areas that are eligible for funding. The state is currently drafting their plan on how to address the long-term resiliency and mitigation needs of communities, which
Well, these are
this could be
asbestos pipes,
correct,
that have been in the ground for 45
Right.
years or 40 years, whatever.
So it wouldn't
It's got
come
nothing
on,
to
it
do
wouldn't
with-
come under, there's two categories. There's damages that occurred during the storm, and there's projects that improve resiliency for future storms.
I would think-
So this would fall under the
This is not
resiliency.
storm related.
The
Is it?
damage wasn't, but we're
Huh?
planning ahead for potential impacts from future storms. So there is funding for those types of projects as
Right.
well.
So the answer is there's funds, and we're going to be looking in to see what we can get for them. And this is AC pipe. It's coated. It's not asbestos pipe. It is coated on the outside.
Okay. Thank you, I think.
You done, Dan?
Yes, sir.
Cindy?
Yes. So the fireworks is ready to go for Monday evening. We have lined up 5 food trucks. Some community agencies from the county, the hospital will have tents set up to provide information and kind of goodies for the attendees. We are proposing this to also be our grand opening for the playground. So everything is done there right now from the contractors. We are currently, from district staff, moving over the mulch from the old playground into the swing area, which then will be supplemented by new mulch on top of that. And we are awaiting sod to be delivered, to be placed outside the playground.
So we're going to open with no fence, right? Right? Are we planning on putting a fence in?
They will be moving the fence from the old playground as well.
Oh, they're going to move it, so we
Mhm.
have a fence.
Yep.
We have a fence at the old playground. Instead of buying new, we're going to move that over and save the money, just like we're moving the mulch over. It was $10,000 to put rubber mulch in there, so.
So the
we can
fence is
move it.
just going to enclose the playground, not the basketball court.
Correct. If you're going to do one around a basketball court, you need to put one chain link with barbed wire on top of it, probably.
Plus it has to be much higher.
But the fence that's around the playground is, you know,
You got, I'm not the one that
It
suggested.
won't keep
we do that.
anybody
That
out
was
of it.
from you guys.
They got a lot to do, don't they, before the Friday?
the fence won't be up, but the mulch will be in.
Okay. Boy, everything.
Can you give us, can you just send me a final breakdown of what this whole thing cost us?
Yep, I
playground,
actually,
if you would?
we have to submit our grant report right now, so I can give you a copy of what.
And where
We're
are we on the
documented.
monies that are owed us? Do we have them yet, or we don't?
We have to spend the money first, and then we will be
I'm
reimbursed.
sorry?
We have to spend the monies first, and then we will be reimbursed.
And when, so we'll get them this fiscal year, or
Yes,
we haven't spent them yet?
we are spending them at the moment, yes. We have not submitted them for
Again,
reimbursement
on this
yet.
report, it says that we've already paid $700,000 out.
What report you're talking
Huh? I would think that's sufficient to get the monies, isn't it?
There's a form you have to fill out to send to get the grant, not only from the state, but also from the RPAC. So we will do so. You couldn't do it until everything's paid.
Anything else?
I have two quick questions. Who was revised and what are we doing with them? I can't remember. I know the company name, but I don't remember. what they
Revise
do.
hosts our website.
Yeah. Aren't they connected with us? Or are they website?
They host our website.
They host our website.
Yes.
And that's different from the other guys who work the website.
Correct.
Just one last thing, to report that email blast that you sent out yesterday, the pool hours are wrong.
How so?
It says 7 o'clock.
Monday to Friday, we have been open
That's at 8 o'clock, I thought.
no, we've
7.
gone to 7
It
o'clock.
was 7
It
all
was
along.
always 7.
Huh?
It was
was
7
always
all
7.
along.
I thought we changed it to 8.
No,
We changed it to 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
from 6 to 7.
And we are actually in the process of hiring an additional recreation attendant, so we will be able to open until 7 on the weekends also. But for now, we were only able to do it Monday to Friday.
Okay, last meeting, we asked about grant money for lights.
Yep, I have been looking into that also. Just to give you a very quick education on how eligibility for grants is determined. Every grant has its own eligibility requirements. Typical ones include location, type of organization, type of project, population of the area, median income of the population, and other funds that we have available to do projects. So I have been looking at a number of possible programs. Examples of these are the USDA has a community facilities, either a loan or a grant program. That one, our median income was too high, and they required you to basically have been denied other funding before you come to them for funding. Another example is the United States Department of Energy. They have an energy efficiency and conservation block grant program. That one, we didn't meet the requirements for the type of organization. Basically, that one, they were looking to give money to larger cities. And again, our income was too high. The census tract that we're located in actually has the highest median income in all of Highlands County. So when you're being considered for grants, when their objective is to help communities that need the help, they're going to look at communities with lower income typically than what we are showing. Also, Duke Energy has grants. We also didn't meet the income or funding requirements for that. The other thing that kind of goes against our favor is that as a special district, we have the capability to charge special assessments to pay for infrastructure needs. So they're going to look at what we've done first to try to raise money for projects before getting funded. The best bet, if we wanted to consider doing this, possibly if we were to consider doing solar-powered streetlights, there may be funding out there that would be like either a rebate or an incentive based on that being a use of renewable energy. And that would also reduce our long-term energy costs and not having to pay electricity. So if that's something the board is willing to
There's
consider.
nothing safety that comes to in play as far as grant money for like the lights and maybe even the sidewalk. I mean, we're putting in the sidewalk for the benefit of school children trying to go to and from school.
Right. Lighting is basically considered an infrastructure improvement. So it's really our obligation to provide that either ourselves or when the communities were built, we should have been requiring that. So it's not technically a public safety issue. It's an infrastructure issue that we haven't addressed.
That includes the sidewalk.
The sidewalk, there's a lot more opportunity for that because there's a lot out there that they're looking to create walkable communities and street safety. The timing with how quickly we're trying to get it done, we wouldn't get grant funding at this point. We're trying to do it now.
You can't get it after the fact.
Mm-mm.
Um,
But
I did
we can
see-
still look, I know we talked about the Matanzas project. That one, we can be looking forward to starting to see what engineering we need to do that and what programs are out there that we could apply to that one.
Okay, and I did see your email concerning the Lake Placid waste treatment plant and why they were granted the money.
Right.
Because of
That one
material getting
related,
into the water.
yeah, that one related to surface water quality.
Part of what is currently in this wastewater is the ability to reclaim water.
Mm-hmm.
Is there not grant money available for reclaiming water?
Yeah, there are programs out there, then we have been looking at them in relation to this whole water plant project. We will be more favorably looked upon if we are doing something that improves the environmental conditions, not just replacing something because it's old.
Yeah, for sure, you can get a grant from Southwest Florida Water Management for 40% of the additional cost to, you treat the water to a certain quality to be able to put it into the percolation pond. You have to treat it to an additional step to use it on the golf course. They'll pay 40% of that, but they also reduce your total allotment by gallon for gallon. So it helps, but it doesn't.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Of course. Okay.
But that's part of the deal, and of the total cost, that would more than likely be probably several $1 million of it as a
Several
grant from
million.
them.
Is
Several.
that, then if it's truly this double-edged sword, do we really want to reclaim the water if we're going to lose gallon per gallon from Swift mud?
They may not let you have a choice if you want the
Oh,
SRF funding.
Of course not.
There's
right.
always a catch, right?
Yeah. Anything else for Cindy? Follow-up items. New business.
None.
Discussion to and from the board.
Yeah, I got one thing to bring up. Somebody came to me and was concerned over the ability to make comments at the golf committee meetings. And if you read the, what do you call it, bylaws or whatever, charter or whatever it is,
The charter.
it says if you give a 2-week notice, you're allowed to speak. What I'm asking is that we reconsider that and treat it as if we do the board. You get 3 minutes, it's on the timer, and you're good.
I believe it's 1 minute, 1 week instead of
I'm sorry?
2. I believe it's 1 week's notice, but either way.
I
it's
could be
notice.
right, I could be wrong. But I think we just make it along the lines of the board. You get 3 minutes and you're on a timer, and that's it. But what do we have to do to institute that?
I don't know that we need to do anything. I mean, the charter says what the charter says. If the president isn't, of that committee is not adhering to the charter, that's.
I want to change the charter.
He's wanting to amend the charter.
Oh, yeah, we would, then all we have to do is bring the proposed amendment to the board for approval. So, I mean, it is a board approved committee. It's not a sunshine committee, but it is a board approved committee. So yeah, if the board can do it at its leisure, anytime it wants to, it can.
Can we do that?
Yes.
The charter actually says that
We need to amend it to where any member should have the ability to discuss anything.
Without a 1 week notice, is that what you're saying?
With a week
With,
notice.
with the week notice.
that's the way it is now.
They said-
If you want it without the week's notice, then that's what needs to get changed.
Well, I think if somebody goes to the meeting and they decide they want to say something, they should be allowed to say it if they didn't give notice. I mean, if they're going to take the time to go to the meeting, you ought to give them 3 minutes. It's not, I don't think, out of line.
The charter actually says that the committee can amend the charter, but then you have to approve it. So if you want to direct the committee to amend the charter, you can do so. But as it stands, that's the way it is. I believe it's a week notice that they have to give the committee of their intent to address the committee. But you can change it however you want it to be, or you can direct the committee to change it however you want to. It's up to you. It is a board committee.
Do we know how the committee feels about this?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know because I've never seen a committee report from them.
I've got a pretty good.
That was my point.
I got a pretty good idea, yes.
Well, but has members been denied the opportunity to talk even when they gave a 1 week notice?
Not to my knowledge. I think they have been denied the opportunity to address the committee without having given the notice. That's the way I understand it.
Yes, that's what I've heard too.
Now,
I don't see the problem with giving a week notice.
You know, if we're denying them, and if they've given notice and they're being denied,
No,
That's one thing.
I think when he gets there, he has questions that he wants to ask, and he's being told he can't do that.
then he's being denied, even given the week's notice.
No, he did not give a week's notice.
Oh.
No, I'm not saying he did. That's why I'm saying I'd like to amend the rules to be similar to what we do here. We don't ask people to give us a week notice if they want to speak. Why would we do it in the golf committee?
I don't want, having been on the golf committee
Mhm.
for a long time, I think we're very lucky that we have such a strong golf committee because we've had to revamp it a couple of times, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So they want to run this the way they need to run it, and I think that's the way it should be run.
Well, but they can't, if they're given notice and denying, that's a different story.
That is a different story. I agree. If they are given notice and they show up and they're denied the right to speak, I think that's something totally different. But
Let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting and we'll have a formal discussion and decide what we want to do.
My recommendation would be to instruct someone from the representative from the golf committee to be here.
yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Any other item?
Yeah, I got an email yesterday, and I don't know if it's Dave or from somebody. It was about 4:00, and I didn't look at it till 5, that something I signed as the president, a lien on some property. and it was from a lawyer, who would I direct that to?
If it's from a lawyer, just bring it to me or forward it to me and I can take a look at it. It's a,
It come from a lawyer's office and they wanted to pay the fine. So it's not that they're
okay.
arguing about it. And I don't know if it was from 2017 or 20, whenever the last time I was president. But-
Yeah, just bring it to me or forward it to me and we
Okay.
can discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on the board? A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.